You can make more money. You can build more relationships. You can even repair your health. But there is one thing you can never, ever get back once it's gone, and that's time. People talk about saving money, investing in stocks, chasing opportunities, and building empires. But they ignore the most valuable asset they'll ever have, the ticking clock. Every second that passes is a second you'll never see again. It's gone, done, over. And too many of us live like we've got forever. We think tomorrow is guaranteed, next week is promised, next year is locked in. It's not. You don't know next week. You don't know next month. You barely even own the next hour. All you've got is now. Let me ask you something real. How much of your life have you already spent waiting? Waiting for the right time. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting for permission. Waiting for someone to come and tell you it's okay to go after what you want. You've waited so long, you've trained your nervous system to think waiting is normal. It's not. Waiting is a form of death. You're either moving forward or you're sliding back. There's no pause button in life. The world doesn't freeze just because you're unsure. While you hesitate, someone else is executing. While you sit in doubt, someone else is out there grinding, failing, learning, and growing. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle but lives in hesitation. We post quotes about living your best life, but keep waking up to the same routines, stuck in the same stories. You keep telling yourself, I'll start next week. I'll start after I fix this thing. I'll go after my dream once I have more clarity. But you know that's a lie. That's the story your fear tells you to keep you safe and small. You think you're protecting yourself by waiting. You're not. You're bleeding time. You're leaking power. And every day you don't take that step, you're building a life of regret instead of a life of results. Because time doesn't care how scared you are. It doesn't care how tired you feel. It doesn't care what excuses you've got lined up. It just keeps moving. You know, it's brutal. One day, you're going to look back and realize that the window closed, not all at once, not in some dramatic moment, closed slowly, inch by inch, every time you said, not now. Every time you said, later. Every time you thought, I've still got time, until one day you don't. That dream, that idea, that goal, it fades. Not because it wasn't possible, but because you waited too long. You've got to stop acting like you're immortal. You're not. You've got to stop living like there's some magical moment in the future when everything's going to line up perfectly. It won't. The stars don't align. You align you. The opportunity of your life is not in some distant future. It's in the decision you make right now, in this moment. You don't need more time. You need to stop wasting it. Stop giving it away to things that don't move you forward. Stop spending it on distractions, doubts, and drama. Cut the noise. Focus it. Because every day that passes is a deposit you don't get back. You are spending your life one decision at a time. Are you spending it on what matters? Or are you spending it on fear, comfort, and excuses? And don't tell me you don't have time. That's the biggest lie people use to stay small. You have time. You just don't use it wisely. You scroll for hours. You binge watch. You say yes to things you don't care about. You fill your schedule with things that mean nothing. Time is not your issue, your priorities are. Look, I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm here to wake you up. Because the clock is ticking whether you face it or not. This is not a rehearsal. This is the show. This is your life. And if you don't start honoring your time, no one else will. You don't get to rewind. You don't get a do-over. All you have is this moment, this breath, this choice. You want to change your life? You don't need a 5-year plan. You need to own the next 5 minutes. You need to move, not tomorrow, not when it feels good, not when you're confident. Now, you've been told your whole life to do it right, to get it perfect, to make sure every step is calculated, measured, flawless. And because of that, you've been stuck, paralyzed, frozen in a cycle of endless preparation and zero execution. Because somewhere along the way, you bought into the lie that if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing. That if you're not ready, you shouldn't begin. But here's the truth most people won't tell you: perfection is a trap. It's the most beautiful, polished, convincing form of procrastination there is. Perfection sounds noble. It sounds responsible. You say, if I'm just not ready yet, I want to do it right, and everyone nods like that's wisdom. It's not. It's fear dressed up in a tuxedo. It's the elegant excuse you use to justify your inaction. You hide behind it, convincing yourself you're being smart, but deep down you know what it really is. It's the fear of failing, the fear of being judged, the fear of starting and realizing you're not as good as you hoped you'd be. But let me ask you this: how are you ever supposed to get good if you never allow yourself to be bad? People don't become excellent by waiting. They become excellent by doing over and over again. They fall on their face, they embarrass themselves, they look stupid, and through that process, they sharpen, they grow, they evolve. But not one of them gets there by waiting to be perfect. You think the greats started flawless. Not a chance. They just started, and they kept moving. You want to know what kills dreams faster than failure? The endless pursuit of perfection. Because failure gives you something to learn from. Perfection gives you nothing but delay. It keeps you rehearsing the same scene in your head 1,000 times, but never letting you step onto the stage. Here's the brutal part: the more you chase perfection, the more insecure you become. Because when you're always measuring yourself against an ideal that doesn't exist, you never feel like enough. You never feel like you've got what it takes. And that feeling keeps you stuck in this mental prison, obsessing over what could go wrong, instead of stepping into what could go right. Some of you have ideas inside you that could change your life. Businesses you want to start, stories you want to write, messages you want to share. And you've kept them buried because they're not perfect. Yet, you're waiting until your plan is airtight, until your skills are bulletproof, until every single detail is in place. But what you don't realize is that while you're perfecting your plan, someone else with half your talent is out there making it happen. And they're winning. Not because they're better than you, because they were willing to start messy. Progress loves motion. It doesn't care how polished your effort is. It just needs movement. It needs momentum. But perfection kills momentum. It says, wait. It says, you're not good enough yet. It says, you need more time. But more time doesn't make you more ready. Action does. Messy, imperfect, courageous action. That's where growth happens. That's where you build confidence. Not from waiting to feel ready, but from doing the damn thing before you feel ready. And you've got to decide, do you want to look good or do you want to grow? Because you can't have both. Growth is ugly. It's raw, it's awkward. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to trip. You're going to cringe when you look back. But those are the moments that sculpt you. That's where the power is. And the people who win in life, they lean into that. They don't fear imperfection. They use it. They use it as fuel. They launch, they learn, and they level up fast. The truth is, no one's watching as closely as you think. No one is sitting around judging your every move the way you judge yourself. People are too busy dealing with their own lives to worry about whether your post was perfect, whether your product had a typo, whether your message came out a little rough. What they care about is your courage, your honesty, your drive, your energy. They care about whether or not you show up. You have to stop worshiping perfection like it's some kind of badge of honor. It's not. It's a form of fear that wears a mask. And the longer you let it run your life, the further you drift from who you're meant to be. Progress isn't pretty. Progress is gritty. It's real. It's human. And the faster you embrace it, the faster you move forward. You're not here to impress people. You're here to make impact. And impact doesn't come from standing still, waiting for everything to be flawless. It comes from stepping up, falling down, and choosing to keep going anyway. Your future isn't some random event waiting to surprise you. It's not a lottery ticket. It's not luck. It's not fate. Your future is the direct result of what you choose to do right now, today. Every action you take, every decision you make, every habit you repeat is casting a vote for the kind of life you will live. And too many people live as if they got time to figure it out later. As if the future is something that happens to them, not something they are actively building moment by moment, choice by choice. The harsh truth is that you don't become successful one day. You don't wake up in 5 years and suddenly find yourself confident, strong, fulfilled, or financially free. You build it brick by brick through the work you do right now, through the conversations you choose to have, through the hard things you choose not to avoid, through the standards you set and the boundaries you enforce. The future you keep dreaming about only shows up if you do. It doesn't reward intentions. It rewards execution. And the only place you can execute is in the present. Most people say they want a better life, more freedom, more purpose, more meaning, but then they keep doing the same things day after day, week after week, waiting for something to change. That's not how this works. You can't plant weeds and expect roses. You can't feed your mind with doubt and fear and expect confidence to bloom. What you feed today grows tomorrow. If you neglect your body today, don't be surprised when your energy crashes later. If you skip the hard conversations today, don't be shocked when your relationships fall apart. If you avoid responsibility today, you'll be buried in consequences tomorrow. You are the sculptor. Every thought, every belief, every action is a stroke of the chisel. The shape of your life 5 years from now is being carved by how you spend this very day. The future isn't some mysterious thing coming your way. It's you revealed over time. The results don't lie. You want to know what your future looks like. Look at your current habits. Look at what you prioritize. Look at how you spend your time when no one's watching. That's the real predictor. Not your dreams, not your vision board, not your motivational playlist. It's your behavior. And it doesn't require radical overnight transformation. It requires discipline in the small things, consistency in the boring things, showing up when it's inconvenient, doing the right thing when it's not popular. You don't need more time, you need more intensity. You need to treat each day like it matters because it does. You're either building your future or you're betraying it. There is no neutral. Every day you drift is a day you lose traction. And if you lose enough days, you lose momentum. When you lose momentum, you lose belief. And when belief starts to slip, that's when people give up on themselves. Not because they weren't capable, but because they weren't committed to today. There is no magic moment in the future where it all suddenly gets easier. The only way it gets better is if you get better. And the only way you get better is by pushing yourself today, doing something uncomfortable today, saying no to distractions today, saying yes to your mission, your purpose, your health, your goals today. You can't keep waiting to feel motivated. Motivation is unreliable. It fades. It comes in waves. What you need is standards. What you need is commitment. What you need is to decide that your future is worth fighting for, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when nobody claps for you, because your future self is depending on you. That version of you that has peace, power, joy, freedom, that person doesn't arrive because you waited for life to hand you a break. They exist because you made decisions today that moved you forward. You did the work nobody saw. You built the habits nobody celebrated. You kept promises to yourself when it was easier to quit. You acted like your life mattered before anyone else believed in you. Most people don't realize how powerful today really is. They underestimate it. They treat it casually. But today is everything. It's the seed of your legacy. It's the soil your future grows from. If you want to transform your life, stop romanticizing the future and start respecting the present. Because everything you think you're waiting for, confidence, clarity, purpose, it doesn't come before action. It comes from action. It comes from choosing to be the kind of person right now who doesn't need a guarantee to go all in. You have to learn to make bold moves with an uncertain future. You have to be willing to sow today what you want to reap tomorrow. Fear isn't going anywhere. That voice in your head that whispers, what if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if they judge me? It's not going to suddenly disappear one day. You're not going to wake up fearless. You're not going to reach a point where you feel 100% ready, completely confident, and immune to doubt. That day doesn't come. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you reclaim your power. Because fear will always be there, but it doesn't have to be in charge. It doesn't have to hold the steering wheel. You can feel it and move anyway. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they lack potential. It's not because they're incapable or undeserving. It's because they've made the mistake of thinking fear is a stop sign. As if the presence of fear means something is wrong. But fear is not your enemy. Fear is evidence that you're on the edge of growth. It shows up the moment you step outside your comfort zone. It's a sign that you're doing something that matters. That you're touching the edges of who you've been and reaching for who you can become. Of course, it's scary. Your comfort zone is trying to survive, and your greatness is trying to be born. You can't wait for fear to leave before you take the leap. You can't keep telling yourself, I'll do it when I feel braver. Because the truth is, courage doesn't come before action. It comes as a result of it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. It's the voice that says, yeah, I'm scared, I'm still going. The people who rise, the ones who break through, they don't do it because they're fearless. They do it because they stop letting fear make their decisions for them. You have dreams, ideas, visions, and fear has kept you from taking the first step. You've told yourself you need more information, more confidence, more clarity. But what you really need is the guts to start while you're still afraid. To stop waiting for everything to feel safe and certain, and start embracing the unknown. Because fear will always paint worst-case scenarios. It will always try to keep you small, predictable, familiar. That's its job. It's a survival mechanism. But you're not here to survive. You're here to live, to grow, to contribute, to expand. When fear tells you you're not ready, you have to remind yourself that readiness is a lie. No one ever feels truly ready to change their life. You think entrepreneurs were ready when they launched their first business. You think artists were ready when they released their first work. You think leaders were ready when they stepped into the spotlight. They were terrified. They were uncertain. But they move anyway. And that's what separated them from everyone else who stayed frozen. You've got to learn to take fear with you. Strap it into the passenger seat if you have to, but don't let it touch the wheel. Let it shout. Let it argue. Let it make its case, and then do it anyway. Speak anyway. Launch anyway. Apply anyway. Say yes anyway. That's how confidence is built, by doing the very thing your fear says you can't handle. Every time you act in spite of fear, you shrink its power. You start rewiring your brain. You start building a new identity. Someone who moves forward, someone who takes action, someone who doesn't wait for perfect conditions. There is no progress without risk. There is no breakthrough without discomfort. And fear will always try to convince you to take the easier route, the safe path, the one where nothing changes. But what it doesn't tell you is that safety is a slow death, that staying comfortable eventually becomes unbearable, that the pain of regret is far greater than the pain of taking the leap. You were not born to hide. You were not built to stay stuck. And deep down, you know that. That's why the fear hurts so much. It's not just fear. It's the tension between who you are and who you know you could be. It's the HE of unused potential. It's the scream of your soul begging you to stop settling. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to walk through it. You need to step into it. You need to do the thing while your hands are shaking, while your voice is trembling, while your heart is racing. Because that's the path. That's the process. You face fear, you take the step, you survive it, and on the other side you become more grounded, more resilient, more unstoppable. Not because fear left, but because you stopped bowing to it. Every breakthrough in your life will come after a moment of fear. That's the price of entry. That's the toll you pay. And if you can just decide that fear is part of the process, not a barrier to it, you become dangerous. You become free. You start living on your terms, not your fears. Regret is a slow burn. It doesn't shout, it whispers, it creeps in quietly after the moment has passed, after the opportunity has slipped through your hands, after the chance to change is gone. And then it stays, it follows you, it sits in the back of your mind, reminding you of what you didn't do. Not because you couldn't, but because you wouldn't. Because you didn't want to be uncomfortable. Because you chose ease over effort. Because in the moment, the pain of discipline seemed too heavy to carry. But what you didn't realize is that the pain of regret weighs more, lasts longer, and cuts deeper. Discipline asks for your effort now. It demands your focus, your energy, your sacrifice. It pushes you to get up early when you'd rather sleep in. To stay committed when you want to quit. To delay gratification when everyone around you is giving in. But it gives you something in return. It gives you progress. It gives you strength. It builds a version of you that you respect. And most importantly, it prevents the slow poison of regret from taking root in your life. Regret shows up when you ignore discipline. When you tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. When you say, just this once, I'll let it slide. When you let fear, laziness, or doubt talk you out of your potential. You tell yourself it's not a big deal in the moment, but it adds up. Every skipped workout, every ignored idea, every broken promise to yourself, it all compounds. And one day, you look around at your life and realize you traded what you wanted most for what was easy right now. That's regret. It's the weight of knowing you could have done more. You could have become more. But you didn't. Discipline stings now so you don't have to suffer later. It's short-term pain for long-term pride. It's the tough choices that protect your future. But most people avoid it because they don't want to feel uncomfortable. They want the reward without the struggle, the transformation without the effort. But life doesn't work that way. Anything meaningful, anything powerful, anything lasting, it all requires discipline. There's no shortcut around it, no hack, no easy way out. You think skipping the work today makes life easier? It doesn't. It just delays the pain. You pay for it eventually, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you will. When your body breaks down because you didn't take care of it. When your dreams feel out of reach because you never committed to them. When you're stuck in a job you hate because you didn't build the skills or take the risk when you had the chance. That's regret. And it hurts more than any workout, any early morning, any uncomfortable decision you've been avoiding. The pain of discipline is honest. You feel it in your muscles, in your mind, in the tension of pushing against your limits. But there's power in that pain. There's clarity. There's pride. You can look yourself in the mirror and know you showed up. You did what needed to be honored, your goals, your values, your word. That builds something inside you. That builds identity. Discipline creates dignity. Even when it's hard, even when no one sees it, especially when no one sees it. Regret, on the other hand, brings shame. It makes you question yourself. It creates that internal ache that says, if I had the chance and I blew it, it makes you look back on chapters you can't rewrite, on roads you didn't take, on conversations you never had, on effort you never gave. And there's nothing worse than wondering how far you could have gone if you just had the courage to be disciplined when it mattered most. Most people underestimate the cost of inaction. They think comfort now comes with no strings attached, but it always costs more later. That's the deal regret makes. It gives you a pass now, then robs you later. Discipline is the opposite. It asks more of you now, but it pays you back with freedom, strength, and peace. The peace of knowing you didn't cheat yourself. The strength of knowing you endured. The freedom of knowing your future is not weighed down by what if. You're not going to escape pain. That's the illusion. The question isn't if you'll feel pain, it's which pain you're willing to choose. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Discipline lasts minutes. Regret can last a lifetime. And every time you make a choice, what to eat, whether to show up, whether to follow through, you're deciding which pain to live with. You're choosing your future in those small, quiet moments that no one sees. That's where your life is being shaped, not in the big speeches or the highlight reels, but in the decision to take the harder road when it would be easier to coast. That's the decision that separates the fulfilled from the frustrated, the powerful from the passive, the ones who live with pride from the ones who live with regret. Momentum builds when you act, not when you think about acting. Not when you plan every detail to perfection. Not when you talk about what you're going to do. Momentum is born in the doing. In the first imperfect step, in the decision to move, even when you don't feel ready, even when fear is knocking, even when your confidence is shaky, because nothing happens until you act. Nothing changes until you decide to engage. And once you take that first step, everything begins to shift. See, most people are stuck not because they lack ability, but because they're waiting for a surge of motivation. They think they need to feel inspired to take action. But that's backwards. Motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. You build momentum by moving your feet, not by waiting for the stars to align. The moment you act, you begin to stir something deep inside you. A sense of power, clarity, direction, and with every action, that sense grows stronger. One rep leads to the next. One call turns into a conversation. One page becomes a chapter. It snowballs. But it only starts when you do. Motion is the antidote to stagnation. And when you sit still, mentally, emotionally, or physically, life feels heavier than it actually is. You begin to doubt yourself. You start creating stories in your head. You tell yourself it's too hard, too late, or you're not ready. But the moment you take a step, those lies begin to break apart. Because action brings evidence. It proves you're capable. It reminds you that you're not powerless. And it silences the voice in your head that wants to keep you small. You need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the next step. That next step, no matter how small, has the power to shift your entire trajectory. But you have to trust the process. You have to let go of the idea that you need to know everything before you start. Clarity doesn't come before movement, it comes through it. You figure things out by engaging, by showing up, by trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. That's how momentum is built, not in your mind, but in motion. There's something magnetic about momentum. When you commit to consistent action, the universe starts responding. Opportunities show up. People take notice. Resources appear. You feel stronger, sharper, more alive. You don't need to force results because you've created a rhythm. You've tapped into forward energy. It doesn't mean everything gets easier. Your confidence grows because you're building it on the foundation of effort, not hype. And that's the kind of belief that sticks. That's the kind of belief that carries you through the hard days. Momentum also changes your identity. You stop thinking like someone who hopes and start thinking like someone who does. You stop talking yourself out of things and start talking yourself into action. Every time you show up, even when it's hard, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Not just someone who dreams, but someone who executes. Not just someone who wants change, but someone who creates it. And once you start living like that, you become unstoppable. Not because everything goes perfectly, but because you refuse to quit. You have to understand, an action breeds more inaction. The longer you wait, the harder it gets to move. You build the habit of hesitation. You become someone who delays, avoids, and overthinks. That becomes your rhythm. And it steals your energy. But the opposite is also true. Action breeds action. You build the habit of decisiveness. You become someone who executes, follows through, and adapts. That becomes your rhythm. And it fuels your fire. You can train yourself in either direction. So the question is, which momentum are you building? You don't need to leap a mile today. You just need to do something that moves you forward, especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's when it counts the most. It's easy to act when you're excited, but if you can take action when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when the results aren't showing up yet, that's when you're building true power. That's when you're creating momentum that lasts. Momentum doesn't care how talented you are. It doesn't care about your past. It responds to movement, to repetition, to commitment. And when you choose action over analysis, progress over perfection, forward over fear, you tap into a force that compounds with time. Momentum will take a small effort and multiply its impact. It will take average days and make them meaningful. It will take your doubts and push them aside with evidence. Not because the fear goes away, but because the results start speaking louder than the excuses. Everything changes when you move. Your mindset, your energy, your results. But all starts with a decision to do something. Not tomorrow. Not when it's easy. Not when you feel ready. But now, because now is the only time you control. And momentum is waiting for you. Not in your thoughts, not in your goals, but in your next move. You are not promised tomorrow. That's not a dramatic statement. It's reality. You don't know how much time you have. You don't know how many chances you've got left. You don't know how many more mornings you'll wake up with breath in your lungs, strength in your body, and opportunity in your hands. And yet, most people live like they've got forever, like they can afford to wait, like there will always be more time to start, to fix it, to say it, to change. But that illusion is dangerous, because while you're busy waiting for the right time, life is happening, passing you by 1 second at a time. There's a clock ticking behind everything you do, even if you can't hear it. And that clock doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't pause when you're unsure. It doesn't rewind when you mess up. It just keeps moving. And one day it will hit zero. The question is not if your time will run out. It's when. And when it does, what will be left? Regret. Unfinished dreams, words you never spoke, goals you never pursued because you thought there would be more time. Too many people think they're being smart by delaying their dreams. They say things like, once I have more money, or once things settle down, or if next year I'll finally get serious. But life doesn't work on your timeline. It doesn't wait for your convenience. It shows up raw and real and unpredictable. People die with books still and with songs unsung, with potential that never got unleashed simply because they waited. They waited for clarity. They waited for courage. They waited for some magical moment where all the fear would go away and the path would light up with neon signs. That moment never came. And while you're waiting, life keeps moving. The people around you are getting older. The window of opportunity you think will always be open starts to close. You miss your kids growing up because you were too focused on someday. You lose your health because you said you'd start taking care of yourself next month. You miss the love of your life because you were too afraid to speak your truth. You drift away from who you could have been, not because you weren't capable, but because you were too casual with time. You don't need a near-death experience to wake up. You don't need a crisis to realize what's important. You need to decide right now that your life matters, that your time matters, that what you do today is sacred, because today is the only thing you're guaranteed. Tomorrow is a maybe. Tomorrow is a hope. But today is yours. And if you waste it, you don't get a refund. There are people right now who would give anything for one more day, one more chance to say, I'm sorry, one more moment to chase the dream they let die, one more opportunity to live on purpose instead of autopilot. And here you are, alive, breathing, capable. What are you doing with it? Are you playing small? Are you running from the hard stuff? Are you numbing yourself with distraction and calling it rest? Or are you showing up? Are you speaking the truth? Are you making the bold decisions? Are you acting like your life matters? Because when it's all said and done, you don't get to take anything with you but the legacy you leave behind, the memories you created, the people you impacted, the purpose you fulfilled. And none of that happens by accident. It happens by choice. It happens by doing the uncomfortable thing today instead of promising you'll do it later. It happens by showing up with urgency, not anxiety, with intention, not excuses. You are not promised tomorrow. And that's not a curse. That's the greatest motivation you could ever have. It means today is priceless. It means this moment is a gift. And gifts are meant to be used, not shelved. You truly understand that your time is finite. You start to live differently. You stop wasting energy on what people think. You stop tolerating relationships that drain you. You stop procrastinating on the work that matters. Because you realize this is it. This is your life. And every day you treat like it's disposable is a day you never get back. You can't afford to live like you've got. Don't. You've got now. You've got this breath, this hour, this choice. That's it. And if you don't use it, if you don't move, if you don't create, if you don't speak, No one's going to do it for you. No one's coming to force you into your greatness. You have to own it. You have to rise for it. You have to decide that the life you want starts with the decisions you make while you still can. Because one day you won't have another chance. One day the curtain closes, and all that's left is the story you wrote with the time you had. So now you know, the clock is ticking. Time is your most precious resource, and it's slipping through your hands whether you act or not. Perfection is a myth that keeps you paralyzed. Fear is a companion you must learn to walk with, and the pain of discipline is temporary compared to the lifelong weight of regret. Your future isn't waiting for you. It's being shaped right now, in this moment, by what you choose to do. There is no someday. There is only today. And if you don't move now, if you don't step into your power now, you might never get the chance again. You were not born to be average. You were not born to wait. You were born to rise, to lead, to take action. So ask yourself, if not now, when? Thank you for being here, for listening, and most importantly, for deciding to take your life back.